The most ruthless genocide in history wasn't carried out with swords. It was carried out with wombs. Today, I am going to tell you the truths of the genetic apocalypse that began 800 years ago. And the person at the head of this apocalypse is much more ruthless than you think. Gangaskan, what you are about to hear will freeze your blood. Currently, 1 out of every 12 people on Earth still carries the mark of that atrocity. 16 million people are living under the shadow of a single man. This is the story of an empire where women's bodies, not countries, were invaded. And finally, how one woman ended this curse with a hairpin. This is a story of war, revenge, and a genetic curse. This event began 800 years ago on the boundless steppes of Mongolia. There was a man, his name was Tugun, the famous Gangaskan. You know his story? He built the world's largest empire. He razed armies to the ground. But I will tell you something you don't know. Gangaskan's empire was not built on the countries he conquered or his property. That empire was built on the wombs of women. Now listen to me carefully because the number I'm about to give you concerns 1 out of every 12 men in today's world. A full 16 million men. Yes. You heard that right. A full 16 million men today still carry the genetic signature of that horrible campaign, that systematic terror. This is not just a genocide story. This is a doomsday scenario etched into our DNA. If you are ready, I will now tell you how this genetic empire was established and how one woman's sword ended this era. To learn, we must look at the date this event began. It all began with a love story and ended with a horrific betrayal. The year is 1178. The young Tijin marries his beloved Borte. This was no ordinary marriage. It meant power and prestige brought by Borte, who came from a respectable family. Taijin was about to leave behind his years of poverty and scorn, but his past didn't let go. Taijin's father had stolen a bride from the Marquit tribe years ago, and the Marits came to take revenge with the cruel mathematics of the Mongolian steppes. They attacked at dawn, and Taijin faced the hardest moment of his life. Fight and die or flee and live for revenge. He chose the latter. He abandoned Borte to her fate. At that moment, Borte was a captive of the Marit tribe for 9 months. She was raped repeatedly. She was forcibly held as a warrior's wife. When Tijun finally set out to rescue her, what he saw horrified him. Borte was pregnant. For Tujin, this was an unacceptable humiliation. A man who couldn't protect his wife's body meant he couldn't protect anything. However, Tijin made an unexpected decision. He accepted Borte and the child in her womb, Joy, as his own. Although this appeared to be an act of mercy, it never extinguished the anger and desire for revenge within Tujun. Joy lived his entire life under the shadow of illegitimacy. And after this event, Taigun's entire life changed. Today's psychologists might call this a trauma response reaction, turning one's victimhood into absolute dominance. Because Tijin could not prevent what happened to his wife, he would now control thousands. He saw showing mercy as weakness. To never be weak again, he turned into the most ruthless monster. Tegan's personal shame rapidly transformed into the genocidal weapon of an empire. Gangaskan took rape beyond the simple spoils of war. He industrialized it. After every city they occupied, Mongol commanders would carry out a process called the classification or sorting. This was not random cruelty. It was a planned system. Classification. Women were lined up according to their age, beauty, and virginity status. The most beautiful were specially selected for the Khan and his generals. The rest were distributed among the soldiers. Mongol laws specified how many women each rank could possess. Scribes kept records showing which woman went to which unit. This was a continental bureaucracy of sexual slavery. Selection centers were established outside the conquered cities. At these centers, women were examined, documented, and separated into those suitable for high-ranking Mongols and those to be given to common soldiers. Transportation system. Special wagons were used to transport women over long distances. Human cargo was sent on long transit routes with basic provisions. There were special soldiers to catch runaways. The Mongol Empire's famous postal system, the Yam, had a station every 40 to 50 kilometers. Officially providing horses and provisions, these stations unofficially became a massive sexual abuse network spread across the entirety of Eurasia. This is what historians referred to as the Rape Highway. At every station, a group of women was left for those passing through to rape. High-ranking officials could pre-reserve specific women. Records even included complaints made when there was not enough entertainment at the stations. This shows that sexual brutality became as fundamental a part of imperial administration as taxation or military service. The Tatar example: after Genghis Khan occupied the Tatar lands, he ordered the killing of every Tatar male taller than a cartwheel, including 5-year-old boys. The women and girls were distributed to the Mongols with an explicit command: bear Mongol children. Within a generation, the Tatar bloodline would continue only through the female line. The Tangut horror. In the Tangut kingdom, an even more horrific atrocity was implemented. The Mongols castrated some men and forced them to watch as their wives and daughters were systematically impregnated by Mongol soldiers. The aim was not just to impregnate them, but to destroy the will of those who resisted. This was a horror reduced to a system of human inventory. Records by Chinese historians show that the number of women required was calculated based on troop strength. A 10,000 Manchuman army with extra shares for officers could be allocated 30,000 women, 3 per soldier. These allocations were meticulously recorded just like other military supplies. Now, let's look at 800 years later. And the truly terrifying truth lies here. The evidence of all this planned sexual abuse stands not just in the dusty pages of history, but in the DNA of you, me, and millions of people across Asia. Modern genetics has measured the sexual violence of the Mongol Empire in cold mathematical terms. Y chromosome studies have reached a clear conclusion. 16 million descendants. Approximately 16 million men on Earth today are direct descendants of Genghis Khan and his close relatives.